Today, we're going to be looking at every investable asset class to try and work out where you should put your money in 2025 to try and beat inflation. Trump has pretty much single-handedly crashed the US stock and bond markets, caused gold prices to skyrocket, and left a wave of uncertainty across global financial markets. With that, there is potentially huge opportunity, but in my opinion, it's never been a better time to assess your investment options to try and make sure you're picking the best asset class that can beat inflation. Before we do though, this video is intended for information and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered financial advice. Any reference to financial products, investments or services are general opinions and are not tailored to your personal circumstances. When investing, your capital is at risk and you may lose some or all of your investment. Past performance does not guarantee future results, so please always do your own research. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you already have an understanding of inflation and why it's so important to make sure that your savings are beating the rate at which the currency is being debased. If not, I'll leave a link up here in the pop-out banner to my video breaking down exactly how everything works and what inflation really is. But as a reminder, effectively, when we're trying to beat inflation, what we're trying to beat is the M2 money supply, which is the rate at which central banks create new money that enters into the system. Not CPI, which is a flawed measure of inflation that governments like to use. Now, I'm based in the UK and most of you guys probably are too, so you might think it would make sense to track UK M2. But actually, I think it makes sense to look at both UK and US M2, as the US dollar is the global reserve currency, and their economy often leads the rest of the world. Unfortunately, US M2 growth has actually been more severe than the UK's. So looking over the last 10 years, US M2 has grown by about 80%, whilst the UK M2 is closer to 50%. Averaged out, that's around 6% per year in the US and 4% in the UK. So we're giving ourselves a slightly more difficult challenge by trying to beat the US rate of inflation. Now, irritating as this may sound, over the last decade, it's actually been fairly straightforward to beat this rate of inflation. Most asset classes have outperformed the rate of inflation, with the S&P 500 up around 160% and gold up around 192%. Meaning you would likely have had decent success beating inflation with a typical dollar cost averaging strategy into either of these asset classes. But the reason I wanted to make this video now is that there is so much uncertainty surrounding financial markets off the back of Trump's tariff trade war. He has single-handedly crashed the US stock market, potentially providing a great buying opportunity if you still believe in stocks going forward. But there's also the possibility that he's changed the way that global markets will function from this point onwards. So let's quickly just go over what actually happened. Well, effectively, Trump's tariffs have caused all of the chaos. He's imposed enormous tariffs on foreign imports into the US, stretching as high as 145% for China, shifting significantly away from what was almost a free trade system the world had been operating in. Some would argue this is to re-establish US manufacturing and support jobs domestically, rather than importing everything from overseas. Others suggest it could just be an attempt to shake things up and force the US central bank to lower interest rates. Either way, he's disrupted global markets in a way that may not be reversible. So the big moves are that the US stock market has crashed by around 15%, US bond prices are also down, causing yields to go up, and gold is now soaring to new all-time highs. The way I see it is that these unfavourable tariffs have caused foreign investors to sell off their US assets, and as a result move capital into neutral assets instead, which in this case has been gold. But considering 20% of the US equities market and 30% of the US bond market are made up of foreign investors, this could make some sense. Now, if this is correct, it's arguable that this money could flood back into US markets if Trump lowers the tariffs in a few months. But it's also just as reasonable to think that this money may now be gone for good, as foreign investors may be sick of being exposed to these political games. Personally, I would lean towards the latter, and that's why I think it's vital for investors to assess the quality of the asset classes they're investing in, as I'm not convinced the US stock market will recover as it has before during previous corrections. So with all of that context out of the way, let's get into the main purpose of this video, which is trying to work out what to invest in to provide a long-term store of value and hopefully beat inflation. Now, the typical asset classes that people talk about investing in that we're going to cover today are the US stock market, government bonds, gold, other commodities like oil and metals, property, and Bitcoin. But actually, the mainstream media don't like to talk about that one. So what I'm going to do is break down each one, looking at its perceived value, historic returns, and potential future outlook, to see how they fit in today's climate. For this, I'm going to move in chronological order from what I think are the least to the most investable options, starting with commodities. This one's pretty simple, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but to put it plainly, commodities for me are uninvestable over the long term. They're very volatile and often driven by unpredictable supply and demand dynamics, as well as geopolitical events. They typically trade sideways over the long term, which might work for traders, but for long-term savers looking for a store of value, they're just not appropriate in my eyes. Oil, gas, platinum, they're all pretty much the same story. Next up, we have government bonds. Now the idea is that government bonds are very low risk because you're lending to governments who basically can't default. The first problem though is that the returns just don't beat inflation. Both US and UK 10-year bonds have capped out returns at around 4.5% over the last 10 years, well below our 6% target. So if you invest in bonds, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you get beaten by inflation. Then you have the question of why would you want to lend to these governments in the first place? They are in so much debt that they're practically insolvent, and basically the only way that they can pay off these debts is by printing new money. And this is what caused this whole inflation disaster in the first place. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's not an asset class I would ever go near, for both practical reasons and on principle, because I do not want to support this system. Next up, we have property. Now I'm sure many people won't like to hear me say this, but in my opinion, property is not a good investment or store of value. The basic idea of investing in a property does make sense on paper, as property prices in the UK are almost always increasing. You can rent it out and receive passive income, and mortgages offer everyday investors access to cheap, low interest capital, which taking advantage of can maximise your returns massively if prices continue to go up. The big problem though is that average house prices don't truly keep up with inflation. The UK house price index is up around 54% over the last 10 years. And yes, that does technically just about beat the growth of M2 in the UK of 50%, but it doesn't come close to the US's 80%. But on top of that, when you factor in the ongoing costs, it just gets worse. Housing always requires a lot of continuous maintenance over time, eating away into any potential profits. With that, you also have the potential headache of dealing with tenants, which could cost you both emotionally and financially. The property market is also incredibly exposed to third-party interference, for example, governments. So in the UK, the tax system is incredibly unfavourable to property investors. You're slapped with paying stamp duty when buying a property, capital gains tax when selling, and you have huge legal fees to factor in as well throughout the buying and selling process. Property prices are also so high compared to wages that most people are completely priced out of the asset class, unless you already have significant wealth to start with. Liquidity can be an issue if you're trying to sell quickly and need to find a buyer. And ultimately, housing isn't particularly scarce, as more houses are being built every day, potentially devaluing the existing supply. Now, looking forward, I personally don't think that the property market is going to pick up in a significant way that people might like to think it will. I believe the market's currently overvalued, with people buying second homes to try and use it as a hedge against inflation. So going forward, I think because of these issues I've outlined, capital will start moving away from property in the coming years to more accessible, better performing alternatives. So in summary, property just isn't for me. I think you should buy it to live in it, but not as an investment. Next up on the list, it's between gold and stocks. And I think, to be honest, they are pretty much equal, but I think gold slightly has the edge. So let's look at stocks first. This is the asset class that got me into investing back in 2013 when I was still at school, and it's treated me fairly well over the years. My favourite thing about it is how accessible it is in this day and age. Individuals can invest with just £1 in global companies from anywhere in the world with just your phone. Now obviously there are so many things you can invest in within the stock market, but for me the US market has always been the best place to be. The S&P 500 index, which is made up of the 500 largest US companies, is up a massive 162% over the last decade. And the Nasdaq 100, which is effectively the tech index, is up around 325%. So over that long time period, both have massively outperformed inflation. But there are still risks when investing in stocks. So most of these returns are driven by just a few companies called the Magnificent Seven: Tesla, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Nvidia. When applying basic analysis on these stocks, they are all hugely overvalued, They trade with PE ratios between 25 and 58. And seeing things like this just makes me think, just because it's worked in the past does not mean that it will continue on this trajectory forever. There's also huge foreign investment in the US stock market, which could now be shifting due to Trump's tariffs. As I mentioned before, there is the potential that these large buyers are now spooked for good due to the counterparty risk of Trump's actions, and they want to move to more neutral assets to alleviate this risk. I believe this is why gold has performed so well recently, whilst the stock market and bond markets have both crashed. Because of this, I'm truly concerned that the US market indexes could now stagnate, and I don't have the conviction that the same old strategy that people have preached for years will work in the same way it has going forward. The other risk with stocks is that as well as the potential government interference, you're always exposed to the risk associated with individuals involved with the companies. For example, looking at Elon Musk, his political role recently has absolutely trashed the price of Tesla stock, caused certain demographics to turn on the product altogether, and really no one could have predicted it would happen quite like this. But similar things can happen with any other company, and this is completely out of your control as an investor. Now sure, there will always be individual companies and other global indexes that make profitable investments, but finding them requires a lot of time and speculation, which isn't ideal for the typical saver looking to just beat inflation. Will that typical dollar cost averaging strategy into the S&P 500 still beat inflation going forward? Probably, but I think there are other asset classes that have the potential to do better. Which brings us nicely onto our next asset class, which is gold, and the first of the neutral asset classes we're going to look at. Gold is one of the oldest assets used as a store of value. It's been used as money for thousands of years, institutions and governments still own it and buy it, and up until recently, it was used to back our paper money before we came off the gold standard. The characteristics that make it suitable are its scarcity, durability, the fact that it's neutral, and that it's proven itself over time to keep up with inflation. Over the last decade, gold is up around 184%, massively outperforming the 80% increase of M2. Now it's fair to say that the Magnificent Seven and many other stock market indexes have outperformed gold, but for me, gold wins because it just strips away some of that risk. Gold just sits there, and because it's scarce, durable, and desirable, it holds its value. There's no need to speculate trying to find a winning stock. You can just simply buy and hold this thing, and over time, it should retain its value. Recently, it's also gone on a mega run, as people typically view it as a safe haven asset in times of uncertainty. That being said though, gold is not perfect, and there's a reason it's not top of this list. So although it's scarce and costly to find more of, no one truly knows how much gold there is in the world. And if a significant amount is found, it could massively devalue the existing supply, especially if space travel leads to finding new gold reserves on other planets. Gold also effectively failed as money as we moved into the digital age. This is because of its physicality and being very heavy and difficult to transport. It requires holders to invest in significant storage infrastructure or trust a third party to store your gold for you, creating a new risk. Arguably, you could buy an ETF that tracks the price of gold, but again, there is similar counterparty risk as you don't truly own the underlying asset. There have also been instances in the past where gold has been faked, which is another risk to consider and could affect its price. And yes, governments own it and continue to buy it to use as a store of value, and I'm sure it will likely continue to perform over the next 10 to 20 years. But what if there's an alternative asset that improves upon all of these weaknesses? Could that begin the collapse of gold as a store of value? Well, I think the answer is yes, and that leads us on to our final asset on the list, which is Bitcoin. Although many would perceive it as a risky asset because of its volatility and the way that the media portray it, in reality, the fundamentals make it a near perfect store of value and monetary asset. Like gold, it's scarce, so it's got a capped supply of 21 million coins. It's also durable, as no one has been able to hack the network or fake any Bitcoin. And it's neutral, because it lives within a decentralized global network of computers with no individual or team in charge of it. It's a meaningfully decentralized network with a distributed ledger. That means governments can't stop you using it or take it away from you. They can't manipulate the price, and they can't make more of it. It also has some key advantages over gold, which are that it's digital and can be transferred from one person to another effortlessly over the internet. You don't need any costly infrastructure or third parties to store your Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be held digitally just on your phone or computer. and it's possible to self-custody within open source wallets that completely remove any third-party points of failure. Now, although Bitcoin has only been around for 16 years and it's not as tried and tested as gold, within that short space of time, its adoption is growing organically faster than the internet. It's become the 5th most valuable asset on the planet with a market cap of $1.8 trillion. Over the last 10 years, it's up around 20,000%, taking the crown of being the best performing asset. Large institutions and governments are starting to invest in it, most recently with the US government establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, promising to never sell any coins and saying that they want as much of it as they can get. And over the long term, its growth displays characteristics represented of a power trend. With that said though, there are obviously still risks. First being its short-term volatility. Although long-term, the trend appears to be fairly clear, short-term there is often a lot of volatility, making it an unsuitable asset if you're looking to hold for less than 5 years. Another risk is that the government, whilst not technically being able to stop the network, can try and make life difficult for holders and try and slow its adoption. They might do this because Bitcoin ultimately threatens their system and gives them less control. So they could try and make it illegal to hold Bitcoin, although it's still possible to hold it anonymously. They could impose high taxes when selling Bitcoin. For example, at the moment in the UK, you do have to pay capital gains tax when selling. Or they may simply try and stop you from buying too much and dissuade you from purchasing at all. So in the UK, the FCA make you declare that you will not purchase more than 10% of your net worth. Otherwise, they'll block you from setting up an account with a Bitcoin exchange. And to operate legally in the UK, exchanges have to have banners everywhere all over their platforms saying, "Be prepared to lose all of your money." Now, as well as all of this, there's always the risk that the network could get hacked or some fundamental flaw is found. But personally, I think that's fairly unlikely because 16 years in, nothing's managed to break it yet. Fundamentally, no matter what people say, it is the best performing asset over the last decade. It has the characteristics of a near perfect form of money that the world has ever seen, and it's still so early in its lifespan. So if adoption continues on this trajectory, there's a great opportunity to make outsized returns far exceeding the rate of inflation. With Michael Saylor predicting that it will go to $13 million a coin in the next 20 years. Now I'm afraid that covers everything for today. If you found the video helpful, please smash that like button down below and let me know which asset classes you're investing in to try and beat inflation. As always, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all of my latest content. And if you want to know how to buy Bitcoin in a way that's tax-free when selling for a profit, check out this video on screen now to my video breaking down that method. But with all that said, take it easy and enjoy the rest of your day.